Hi, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Let's talk about good stress, bad stress, and homeoresis, which is a term you may not have ever heard before, but is actually rather important for your health. So let's first of all talk about what I mean by good stresses. And we used to think, I was always taught stress is inherently bad. And that's not necessarily true. There's actually some very good stresses that you can engage in. For instance, exercise. Exercise is inherently stressful. You are increasing your blood pressure when you're exercising. You are putting your muscles under load. You're releasing, you're damaging your muscles. You're deliberately inflicting damage on yourself when you exercise. Is that good or bad? Well, actually, it's a good stress because, good stresses are generally short-term and they're with a mind toward improving your body's composition. So, stress can be a very positive thing. Hey, falling in love is inherently stressful. Meeting new people is stressful. But there's short-term stresses that are actually very good for you and release a lot of very positive brain chemicals, etc., and really help the body. So these are all good things, but in the short term. If you were in the process of being in love or under constant stress, that becomes a bad stress. So let's talk a little bit about bad stresses that can be affecting you. And probably the biggest one that most Americans face is the bad stresses that come from diet, particularly from eating carbs, sugar, a lot of ultra-processed food, and eating lots of small meals a day. See, your body needs rest. It needs to recover, and your digestive system needs it too. And if you're eating 6 or 7 or 8 small meals a day all day long, your body never gets a chance to rest and recover. So there's a lot to be said for eating large meals to the point of satiety where you're full and then not eating again until you get hungry again. So these are all, you're avoiding a long-term stress. And let's not forget the real danger of eating sugar, ultra-processed food, carbs, is that if your body is constantly, because you're eating that 6 to 8 small meals a day, and if you're eating what most dietitians recommend, which is basically eating mostly carbs, you're releasing insulin constantly, which is inflaming your body and making your arteries more brittle. You're creating some real dangerous long-term stress on your body when you do this. So, I'm all in favor of reducing long-term stress. And look, there's some other long-term stresses you may want to be aware of. Being in a bad relationship, being in a job that you hate. These are all things that can create long-term stress. And again, any type of long-term stress, with the diet, I always look at it in terms of what it does to the cardiovascular system. But long-term stress has a lot of other effects on your hormones and on your immune system. It decreases your body's ability to be able to fight infection and it saps your strength over time. You start suffering muscle loss. It damages the brain. It creates a whole host of problems. So you want to avoid long-term stressors in your life as much as you possibly can. Some things you can't avoid. If you're in war, you're stuck. The economy tanks. Okay, we're all in this together. If you're in a bad relationship, it's going to take more stress in order to get yourself out of it. That's just part of life. You're going to suffer periods of time of long-term stress, but don't inflict it on yourself. By the way, another long-term stress can be too much exercise. If you're not giving yourself enough time to recover after a workout session, that is going to overstress the body too, and you're going to wear down joints, you're going to inflame your system, and you need recovery. Now, recovery does not mean that you have to be flaccid. You don't have to be a couch potato in order to recover. You can still be active. But, you don't put yourself under the type of stress that you do when you exercise. But let's also talk about a really important concept that I really love called homeoresis. And homeoresis is a concept where, you may have heard the phrase, the dose determines the poison. Well, yeah, there's some things that, certain drugs, things that we encounter in the environment, and when we encounter them in small amounts, they don't make us sick. But when you get too much of it, it can kill you. So the dosage of certain things can really create a real negative effect. And this is kind of the concept of allergy shots. There's a bunch of people that are very allergic to pollens, and what they do is they found that by using the Hormesis effect, they can inject small amounts of pollen into the body, and the body develops a tolerance for these small doses, and as you build them up over time, your body is going to be more apt to be able to handle large doses of pollen later on during the allergy season. So that's the concept of it. Exercise is inherently a homeoresis effect. And getting dirty, frankly, is something that's very important to do too, especially for kids. Kids need to get dirty and interact with other kids so they can develop their immune response. See, a kid that was kept in a perfectly clean environment, if you kept them in a clean room, they would die because their immune system would never develop. So, letting kids be kids, getting dirty, etc., like that, actually helps improve their immune system. One of the reasons why I kind of got furious with a lot of folks that were trying to put masks on their kids and bathe them in hand sanitizer all the time and wouldn't let them play with other kids during the last few years, was because it was going to destroy the kids' immune systems. And sure enough, when they got back into school, there was just a huge wave of different respiratory viruses and stuff like that because the kids' immune system had been so weakened during the lockdowns that that created real problems. So you need to have a certain amount of dirt. You need to be out in nature to a certain degree in order to have your immune system to be healthy to provide robust response. Now, closely related to that is the concept of inflammation. And this is something, it goes along with the bad or good stresses. And this is an interesting concept that, I've only, recently started to figure out. When I was a kid, whenever you twisted your ankle and it started to swell, the first thing they'd always want to do is put ice on it to stop the swelling. And what we've learned since then is, no, that's actually not what you want to do. You don't want to stop the inflammation because the inflammation is actually part of the healing process. You heal faster from a twisted ankle if you just let the body, get warm, swell, etc., because that is a healing process. It used to be when I got a fever, I would immediately take aspirin because we wanted to reduce the fever. Well, that's not necessarily the best response either. More and more evidence is coming in that when you have an inflammatory response, you've got a fever, unless it goes too high, like 104, 105 or something like that. If it's lower than that, it's better to let your body cure itself by letting the fever run its course. And so I don't take Tylenol or aspirin trying to lower my fevers. I want the body to heal itself. So I just don't go out in public while I'm running a fever and try to rest and let the body heal itself. That's the way we're designed to do it. These are inflammatory responses that can be really good in the short term when the body's trying to heal itself, but they're bad in the long term. When you have too many carbs, so you keep it in an artificially high insulin level, and your pancreas is trying to pump out insulin like crazy, you're inflaming your body. And this is really fascinating. You can literally brown yourself, just like you would if you put a piece of meat in a low oven for an extended period of time. Eventually the meat gets cooked at a low temperature and it turns brown. And that's not oxidation. That is the process of browning because you've heated it for too long. And that's really what happens with long-term inflammation in the body. And that's what we're doing with our diet. If you're eating 6 or 7 small, high-carb meals a day, you're literally frying yourself from the inside out. And that's a problem. So if you don't want to do it, don't. I mean, this is one of the nice things about eating keto, low-carb, or a carnivore type style diet. I can eat two meals a day, not small. But what I eat is I'll eat as much food as I want until I am full. And when I'm satisfied, I stop eating. And then I don't have to eat again until I get hungry again. And when I get hungry, it's time to eat. And we have, usually for the most part, I eat 2 meals a day. Sometimes I'll have a third meal during the day when I get hungry. But I don't have to keep snacking. And frankly, you shouldn't, because that's not giving your body time to rest and do the work of digestion that it needs to do. So eat until you're full. Don't eat again until you're hungry. And what's really nice about carnivores, I don't have to track macros and I don't have to track calories. The body takes care of it for me just by listening to my own hunger signals. But it's not free. You're going to have to work at it. It's going to take a while to break your addiction. One of the things I always tell people when they're beginning to eat low carb and carnivore is, don't stop yourself from eating at first. Don't think that you have to only do 1 meal a day. Eat until you're full. Get used to, start learning what hunger feels like. You might want to sometimes, when you feel that pang of hunger, maybe wait a half an hour to an hour before you actually eat and see if that hunger pain was just a dopamine response where your body says, hey, I want to get some sort of, flash of food drug dumped into my system or not. Because, frankly, when you've been eating a standard American diet and you've been eating 6 or 7 small meals a day, your hunger signals are going to get kind of messed up. It's going to take a little while to recalibrate them. Maybe months, who knows? It depends on who you are and, just how addicted you are to food and ultra processed food and sugar and carbs. But once you break that addiction and you get used to it, and you've been doing this a few years, it's really easy to trust your own signals. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I hope you enjoyed this message. Please hit the like and subscribe. Please join the channel. And I try to put out a new message every single workday. I will talk to you soon.